so welcome everybody. We're going to do boot camp today. I wish we were in person. It's so much more fun when we can just tell stories. But the purpose of this is to just go some things that possibly can make your life a little easier, or to even raise questions on things that you didn't even know you had questions about, which I thought Claire made. That was a good point. So I'm going to start off with, the first thing is, I never tell my kids real deadlines. And if you've been a yearbook advisor before, you know not to tell them. But I want to make sure you know where on Yearbook Avenue you can change your deadlines so that they see deadlines that are different than what are on there. So we're going to start. Well, I thought I was going to start with that. Let's go here and I'll log in. So I'm logged in as an advisor and I'm going to share my screen. And I just want to show you real quick a couple of things on Yearbook Avenue that you have that the kids don't have. And this will make it a little bit easier. So if you go to status.
Are you signed in as an advisor?
Yes, I am. Was that you, Sarah?
Okay. Yeah.
So if I'm signed in as an advisor and I go to status and I go to page submissions, it's going to give me a spot where I can put in fake deadlines for my students. All right. And so if your real deadline for this school is 12/27. So I know this advisor and I know that she's not going to want to wait till Christmas holiday for kids to turn in stuff to her. So she's probably going to make their deadline more like December 6th. All right. So if I update that, then when the kids sign in under their login, that's the deadline they see, not what you have. Okay. All right. If you have questions now, throw it in the chat because one of us will be in the chat as well, or you can just interrupt and ask the question. So that's the first thing I was going to show you. The second thing I want to show you is really teaching the kids about trim lines and where things cut off so we don't have problems. So I'm going to go to Layout Pro. And under here, I'm going to go to Help. There's a Help button right there. You got to be in Layout Pro. And if I click on Help, it's got the hotkey reference, but I love this layout lingo. And basically, it pulls up what a spread looks like. And it shows them that that's the pasteboard. This is the blue is the internal margin, the page here where I want all their text. And then obviously the red shows them where the cut line is. So this is a really good tool for teaching the kids about the margins and how we can't put people's heads in the bleed or text in the bleed, and a good thing to understand. You also know, and just to make sure you know, that when you pull a page on, if you want to look at things really closely, you need to click on the printer button, and that's going to open up your PDF. And that's going to show you all your trim lines, what's being cut off. Okay, that's the gutter. So this is showing me the outside edge of what's being trimmed. So it shows me that, or the gutter, this was the gutter, this is the outside. So that's a really good tool just to make sure you guys know that before you start submitting pages. I had one advisor one time, I love her so much, but she could not keep her text out of the edges over here. It was always out here in the middle of no man's land, is what we call it, between the blue and the red. And you just don't know if you're going to lose a couple of letters on the ends of those words. So just make sure that you guys really like pay attention to those trim lines and all that kind of stuff. Let Yearbook Avenue talk to you. If you hold your mouse over anything, it's going to talk to you. If you want to pull a last year's template, if you want something from last year, and most of you don't, I mean, let's just be honest, but I've had a few schools ask that. If you go under designs and you go to custom, then it does have, if they saved last year's templates, it has them in here. Now, if they didn't, and you have your book and you're like, oh, I really wish I had that spread from last year, just let us know. We can log into last year and just pull that over for you with no problem at all. I'm going to wait on those 7-minute starters till we talk about rubrics and grading, Sarah. Again, ladder planning. I think we did a lot of stuff on ladder planning, obviously, when we talked earlier. If you feel like you still have need for ladder planning and how we make sure that everything can be turned in, know that we turn in double page spreads for deadlines. So just out of curiosity, if your deadline said, let's see what hers is. If she has 15 spreads, which is 30 pages, I need for this to count to the deadline, you've got to turn in 15 spreads. So you can't turn in just page 2. You have to turn in 2 and 3. Now that counts as 2 of your 30 pages and 1 of your spreads. All right, everybody get that? So just don't make the mistake. I've had somebody say, well, I turned in 30 pages, but not a single one made up a double page spread. So make sure you turn things in double page spreads, and then you'll be fine. And so when you look at that, again, look at those page submissions, it always shows you how many spreads or groups are needed. And this is a very helpful little tool here. If you click on show groups, then it shows you what makes up a group versus the whole signature. All right. And you don't have to turn in complete signatures. You can just pick pages. If I want to turn in 4 and 5 and 24 and 25 and 36 and 37. But your ladder planning is so important when you start skipping around like that, because if you turn in 36, 37 down here, and then later you decide you need 2 more pages in here, that doesn't work because that page is already turned in. So it's real important to make sure your ladder is really good before you start turning in stuff like that. Finding things. Plan. I'm going to show you how to order supplies. If you're sending your kids out to sell business ads and you need some ad contracts, they're right here. They're free. You can just order them. If you need lanyards, they're $1 a piece. It'll all go on your invoice. So you might not want to spend $4,000 on these supplies, but if you need something, they're right here. Go in and order them. You can order your yard signs again under here. They're $5.50 if you need another set. Okay, it's real easy to do. If you need receipt pads, I don't know why, but if you do, these photo tip cards are really good to put in your camera bags to help your kids if they don't know how to take photos. They're really cheap. They're like $3. So all this stuff is under here. Somebody asked me about t-shirts the other day. We do have our t-shirt this year. This was last year's t-shirt, which is on clearance. But we also have this year's t-shirt. They're $7 a piece. I don't like them because they don't say yearbook staff on them, but that's just me. But if I bought these, I might take them to a screener in town and have yearbook staff written on the back of them or something like that. And it would be really cheap that way. I don't know, just kind of telling you. So the kids don't have access to this, only you. So keep in mind that that is plan, order supplies. Okay, so pretty easy to do. Also, this is my #1 thing. Never upload your own school portraits to your site. They will not flow into your pages. Never. So if you get a link from LifeTouch, a link from Strawbridge, a CD, a DVD, a jump drive, I don't care. If they deliver them to your school by buggy, I don't care. Don't upload them. All right. You have to either send me the link or send me the download with the index file. We have this program called Printergy, and it takes your files that are your portraits and combines them with the names so that we can flow them on the pages. You never type in a name. You never have to type in a name. It's all done for you. So that way you have absolutely no chance of making spelling errors unless they're spelling errors from the database. All right. I think that's just sort of some things on here that are very helpful, like changing deadlines, where to order stuff, your status report, knowing what your ship weeks are, that kind of stuff is all on there. There's like a lot of stuff you can see that the kids can't see. One more thing, and I'm going to, because I almost forgot, I didn't put this on the list. Let's say I've been working on my page and the kids, I had a template, and then Billy decided, oh, I didn't like the template, and he changed everything. And now you're not happy because Billy's changed everything and you want to go back the way it was. You have a history button. So you can go back by history, and of course there's none on Austin Ridge. Let me sign out.
You're not sharing your screen.
Oh yeah, I forgot to do that. Thank you, Sarah. Because sometimes I just have a moment, don't I?
Well, I said that twice because the first time I was muted.
All right, so I'm going to go to St. Egbert because I was on there earlier and I know she had some. All right, so if I am in Layout Pro and my kid has totally messed up my spread and I am not happy with them, I told you to use that template. I can come to history. I can choose the page, like this is page 2. I can look at user and I can go back to any of these that I want. I can pull this one on if I wanted it. So I can go back and pull the page as it was before the kid messed it up. Okay. And then I'm not going to save this because I don't want to save it. But that history button, a lot of times I'll have advisors say, oh, we lost something. Well, if the kid saved it, you didn't lose it. It will be in the history button. It goes back like thousands of saves. Okay. Oh, yeah. One more thing. Forgot this too. Plan, staff. You want to know if your kids are telling the truth about doing something? You can track their activity. All right. So if you go to plan staff, and again, this is not a good one, but I'm going to use it. Let's pretend that Trish is the staff. I'm a little concerned about whether or not she's doing her job. I can go to view. I can track this by just Trish. And I can see every time she's logged in, what time she logged in, basically what category she was working in. So the kids, they can't fool you, okay? Now, let's say I want to check on Mary, and Mary told me she worked last night. Well, Mary did not work last night. There's not even a timestamp of when she logged in. So you can track their activity and what they're doing. You can do that also through the history button because you can pull up, and I'll show you that as well. Because if I remember correctly, can I just pull up history? How did we do this last year? Oh, there it is. You see this little green button that says history? I'm going to pull that up. It will save a PDF of everything they did. So it tracks it there as well. So I can see, like I've had a kid tell me, I did not put that picture on the page. And I was able to go out and say, well, here's the PDF before, here's the PDF after you signed in, and it was changed. So you can show them that you can see what they are doing, okay? And that is something that they need to be aware of, that you can actually prove what they're doing. Does anybody have any questions or anything about some of those little tricks or tips that might be helpful? No? Okay, we'll move on then. Sarah, you're up next.
I'm up next. All right, I'm going to share my screen. And let's talk about grading. So the first thing I would say is that if you have a yearbook class, because it is product driven and you're actually creating an item that is a full year project, I think sometimes teachers forget that it is still a class just like any other class. I'll have people call me and say, I don't know what to do. I can't get Billy to do any work on his spread. And I say, well, stop and think about if this was your English class. What would you do if Billy wasn't doing any work on his research paper? You'd call home. You'd have him come work with you in after school. There are options. There are options in yearbook too. So don't forget that it is a class. You can treat it like a class. You can give assignments. You can give grades. You can call parents if you need to. It's not just, it's a little different if you have a club, but it's easy to get lost in thinking yearbook is different than other classes, but you can treat it the same way. So let's talk about some different ways that you can provide grades to your staff. I think the easiest one that you might first think of would be rubrics. Giving a student a rubric for what is expected to be on their spread and then being able to grade them effectively on whether or not they did that. So we're going to go to the digital classroom. And I'm going to go to the search bar and type rubric. And right here, the second one, it's going to give me rubrics. And here's an editable rubric that you can actually open and adjust. But there's also one on caption writing, photography, stories, the spread itself. So these are all
one of those, Sarah.
Excuse me?
Open up one of those.
Sure. Let's do the editable one.
Mm-hmm.
then we'll also do this one. All right, so this one is not editable. This one is what it is, okay? This is the caption writing one. So like, here's your Common Core standard. Here's what we're asking for, and then you can grade them. Gags or jokes are not used. Second sentence provides background information and insights. If you give them this before, you're gonna get a lot better result. Plus, it's very easy for you to grade.
This one is in the bottom there, yeah.
This is the editable one, which is just gonna open in Excel. But this is actually for the entire
all the choices.
Yeah. I want to zoom in on this. I'm too blind, but there we go. And you can actually come in here and change how many points do you want to give them. Are there some things that are more important to you than others that maybe you don't do? Things like that.
I find that the teachers that get in the most trouble with yearbook grading are those that don't have any proof of grades. And I know that some of you have done this for a while, know that or some of you are not, that if a parent says, well, what were their grades? And you're like, well, it's hard to say that because it's about their production. So I also like to have like weekly reports of their progress and printouts of their layouts, or maybe digital ones you just keep in a folder showing this is where they were last week and they're still here at the same place this week. But come up with some system.
For sure. I've also put those rubrics in our 2022 resources folder. If you do not know how to access this, we will have it in this week's tip of the week again, but this has already been shared with you a few times. This is, we put tons of stuff in here. If you guys give us an assignment and we think it's great and we want to share it with others, we'll put it in here for you. We start it so that way when you go to your drive, like this is my drive. So when I go to my drive, it's the first one because I put stars. So when it alphabetizes, that's going to be the first one to pop up. Now, because it's shared with you, it's not going to be in your drive by default. You need to create that. So if I come to shared with me and I find that document, that folder, then I can right click on it and add a shortcut to drive. And I'll actually put it in your drive so that you don't have to go looking for it every time.
Right.
So just a little
just
trick.
You know, just right click, show them that again, right click, add the shortcut to drive. So you should add that resource folder to your drive and it'll come up and say my drive. You double click on my drive,
add the shortcut,
and then the shortcut will be added to your drive, and then go back and rename it and put stars or whatever you want to.
I don't even know what I just shared over here.
I don't either.
I shared something. I don't know what it was.
Now, in that resource folder, how do they find stuff easy?
So if you open it up, then we're going to have an index right here. And as we add things to the folder, we add things to the index and we'll mark it if it's new. So like this ambassador program is not very new anymore. I should probably take that off. But you can actually come in here and say, I really wanted some of those digital camera tags. So I can find photography stuff, digital camera tags. They're hyperlinked. When I click it, take you straight to it. So you don't have to dig through looking for that information.
So that way on the tip of the week, most of the time we put all the stuff we share in the tips in this resource folder and we index it for you.
And then we also have an index here that links to our YouTube videos. And so those are all right here if you're looking for those and want to know like how long they are. So you say, I want something that's going to take up most of my class time versus I want, you know, just a 2-minute little intro. So you can actually see how long they are before you show them. So that's fun. If you were with us last year, the 2021 resources folder is still there and you can still access it. The reason we started over, and that's still indexed as well. The reason we started over is that we felt that if we gave a brand new advisor this entire resource folder, it would be overwhelming. And so we wanted to start and just add things as we went, as they were relevant. But you can still access this. If anybody doesn't have access to this and wants it, just let me know and I'll be happy to share that with you. Let's talk about some other types of assignments besides just pages that you can do. Where did I put my, does that thing ever pop up and get in your way? Like there we go. The Zoom thing gets in the way of me pushing the right buttons. All right, other things you can do. If you go to the Educate tab right here, you're going to get 7 weeks of lesson plans that you can use. The downfall to this is that they're fairly long assignments, and you may or may not want to do full assignments. So Kim, what's your favorite thing?
I like, if I'm doing theme right now, I like to do like the theme one or the 7-minute starter. So I'd probably start with a 7-minute starter on theme development or team building or coverage or something. I
These
love
are
the
exactly
7-minute
what they say there.
starters.
7 minutes. So I just went to the plan tab under Yearbook Avenue and scrolled down, and these are 7-minute lessons. And there's not just these 10 or 11. If you open it up, then there's all these different lessons inside it. And there's a lesson plan, there's a handout, there's an exit ticket when needed, there's a presentation. So you have everything you need to know, including answer keys when needed, all right there for you. These are really good ways to start your class and then also give them some time to work on their actual pages and their products as well. And these are easy to grade. So it's an easy way to get a grade.
I like them because they're sort of like that quick little quiz. Like these could be your quiz grades, your layouts could be your test grades, you know, and give them different, like, I don't know how, weights, measurements in how, when you guys have to enter grades. But I'm telling you, if you will start having maybe 3 7-minute starters a week or 2 a week, that would give you in a 9 weeks, you know, 18 or so grades that are just quiz grades, and then use your layout mini deadlines as more test grades and photography assignments as test grades. Then you guys would have evidence if a parent challenges you on a grade.
Exactly. So another option for grades, which is also great for coverage, is beat reporting. And this is a very journalistic thing, a very newspaper thing. So I just Googled beat sheet. And if you scroll down here, there's beat reporting and then a beat sheet form. Basically, beat reporting is you give each student a beat to cover. Are they the sports reporter? Are they the club reporter? Are they the English reporter? Are they football games? You know, what is their beat that they're going to stay on top of? And this beat sheet is a little bit of a guide for them to say, what should I be doing? What are the story opportunities for my beat? What are the photo opportunities? So if I'm doing football, my story opportunities might be playing your rival school. It might be practicing wearing masks. It might be freshmen that got pulled up to play varsity. My photo opportunities might be a game, might be a practice, might be a bus ride. And then you can go through and look at facts and figures. What were their scores? What was the score on the game? How did they feel about that? When is their next game? How often do they play? How often do they practice? And then a promotional opportunity. Do we need to go back out to these people and let them know, hey, look what we've done. We've covered you in the book. So I love these. All right, Kim, anything else? I think that's the only other thing I would say.
I just think everything needs a rubric, and make sure that tagging the photos is part of the rubric for turning in their completed layout. And like I said, you don't want to wait to the last minute and just that's the only thing you're grading, because if that's the only thing you're grading and they make an F on it, then that's still hard to justify to a parent that you gave one test this whole 9 weeks and that's the only grade you have and they didn't do well on it. Any questions? Anybody else? I saw Claire wanted the last year's folder. Michaela, do you want access to last year's resource folder as well, maybe? And Phoenix, all 3 of them are all new. And Tipton. So there's 4 of them there that you might want to send that to.
I'm going to send it to everybody. Did you send them the PDF yet?
Yeah, I did. Okay. All right. So let's talk about class structure, because I think that I have walked into yearbook class, and this has happened to me as an advisor, and all of a sudden I look up and all my kids are left the room and I don't know where they are. And I'm like, where'd everybody go? And everybody's like, well, I had pictures to take or I had interviews to do. Well, especially now with COVID, I don't think we want our kids just like disappearing because we need to know where everybody is. So I feel like you need some structure to your yearbook classroom. And I like the me, your, and our time structure. So it's 3 parts. And this always worked for me. And I don't know, you've got, everybody's got their own thing. I like to always be in front of the classroom during the me time, the first 5 minutes. That was me time. And I told them what I needed from them, what had to be done. That me time can also be the editors directing the me time. It doesn't matter, but there is some instruction that is going on with everybody seated and listening and knowing what's happening today. Then I like what's called your time. So now's the time if you need to get an interview, or you need to go take a picture, or you need to work in a group, or you need to be on the computer. They have so much your time. But then I always ended class with our time. And our time meant either me or the editors or somebody like the photography editor was back in charge. Everybody was back in the room, back in their seats, and we were all engaged at the same time of what we had accomplished, maybe what we hadn't accomplished, maybe what else still needed to be done to make sure that something was covered, like a club that afternoon. But you need some type of structure that they are used to, and it needs to be repetitive. I feel like that always worked best for me, because the kids knew when they came in, I expected it to be me time, then your time, and then I expected it to come back to our time. And it's just a process that I always liked doing, and they liked it because it was almost like working in a company, you know, like they had a meeting, then they could go do their own thing. Then we had a meeting where we came back and we talked about what happened. Give your editors responsibility. Don't make them feel like that they're just in name only. Make it weekly editor meetings. I liked Friday meetings. I like to have a meeting with my editors on Friday where we evaluated the week we just had, and I like to plan the week they were going to have the next week. And that way on Monday, they were ready to get up and have that say, okay, this week we've got this many sports, we got this many clubs, we've got this to cover, that to cover. These are the pages that need to be finished. We had a plan for the week. I don't like big deadlines. So I'm very good at mini deadlines. Like when football was over and that football spread was done, I set it complete, I covered it up, and we moved on. I wasn't going to be doing football 2 months after football was over. So if you guys did 3 or 4 or 10 spreads a week, you never have a big deadline. And that's the easiest way to live, is like eating that elephant really, really small. I also believe kids need homework in Yearbook. I think you need to give them homework. Tonight's assignment is to watch this video on this, and tomorrow we're going to have a quiz on it. If you don't, they are not going to self-teach. They have to learn themselves. You can't teach them everything about Yearbook. So there's lots of stuff on the digital classroom that you can plan that. Again, daily follow-up, make sure they do homework, make sure they have grades, and then don't forget to celebrate achievements. I love when a kid becomes like Yearbook staff member of the week, you know, or I feel like Brittany right now is that Wilson guy from that Tim the Toolman Taylor show, because I only see her eyes in her camera, and I think that's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. Anyway, I love you, Brittany. But I think that Chris Stapleton, I'll never forget, went to an office supply store, one of those that's like discount, like they're throwing away the office supplies. I don't know what they're called. And he bought a rolly chair for $5, and he brought it back to his classroom. And the Yearbook staff member of the week had the comfy rolly chair for the week. So they knew they were the staff member of the week. They, you know, even football teams now, when they make a big play, they come off, they give them something to wear, like for them, when they were the big guy for that particular play. But plan a celebration move. Plan on Fridays also to show good things people are doing, because positive reinforcement is so important with these kids, and to do that in your class structure. All right, now we're going to get to the nitty gritty one. Sarah, let's talk a little bit about judgment calls.
Judgment calls. All right. So you are the only one getting paid for this job, and you are the only one who can get fired. So don't be afraid to be in charge and say no.
Right.
Okay. That's just important. Be in charge and say no when you need to say no. A couple of areas where this can be an issue. One, copyright. Copyright is illegal. We cannot break the law. Just because your kid wants to doesn't mean that it's okay. So some areas that we see happen a lot, finding a picture of a famous person that happens to be trendy right now, or that just died, and wanting to talk about it. Putting a picture of Mickey Mouse on the page for some reason happens a lot. trying to make your yearbook spread look like a Facebook page, a Twitter page, a Snapchat thing, trying to replicate a board game. We can't do those things. It's breaking copyright. Those are copyrighted property, and we can't use them. So Hasbro, Mattel, Disney, those are the three that will sue you in a heartbeat. So the plant will not print it. If you want to put a picture that somebody else took from the internet on your page, at the very least, you have to have some student commentary. So I can't put a picture up of, you know, some famous ball player and say he's a ball player. We can't do that. But I could say Sarah Griffin's favorite sport is this, and her favorite player is this, and she met him one time or something, right? Like you can provide commentary about it. But even then, we're using somebody else's photo.
It's very iffy.
It's very
and sometimes the plant will just flat out say no. I have found that anything to do with caricatures like Scooby-Doo or SpongeBob or any of that stuff, there's a no. They just won't print it because, you know, and so I have to be very careful. And if you ever have a question about it, always ask us before you get too far into something.
Right. And so there are sometimes ways around some of that, but usually if it has anything to do with Disney, it's just a flat out no. So
it is a no. Let's go to quotes. How about them senior quotes, Sarah? My least favorite thing in the yearbook.
I know. Oh, the other thing is you can't use screenshots of social media without permission. You can't use pictures off social media without permission. Senior quotes. I hate senior quotes. Why? Because kids always try to get something over on you and write something that's going to end up on, what is it? The funniest senior quotes things on BuzzFeed and whatnot, right? We don't want to be that person, and we don't want to be on the news. And it happens. Kids try to get things past you. It's like a game. So have rules about what you will and will not allow and stand firm. You can tell them no. You can tell them no before they submit the ad. If you submit an ad and I don't like it, I'm not printing it and I'm not asking you for another one.
Right.
You
and
have
be
that
very
right.
careful about like kids love to quote rappers and music that might have something inappropriate in it, but they won't quote that line of the music. They'll quote the line before or after it, but we know it's there. So don't let them do it. Yeah. And they Google it, right, Sarah? They Google what I can get by with my senior quote, and then they hide, and it's every year.
Every time you see one of those things pop up in your social media, you should look at them all. I always do. If it pops up, I'll look at them because then I know what to keep my eyes open for. Yeah. Acronyms happen a lot. If I don't know 100% without a doubt what it means, I Google it. If it's in a different language, I want it translated. Like I want to know what every single thing means because my name is going to be the one that people are going to come for if it's not right. If you question it, I would say don't do it. I mean, I think that's just a general judgment rule of life. If you have to question whether or not it's a good idea, it's probably a bad idea. If you're really not sure and you're really, just wanting some backup, go see your principal, because then if they give you the okay and a parent comes back upset, you weren't the final say.
I mean, I've said no to quotes, and then the principals have told the kid, no, you can have it. And I was in total shock because it was very racist. And I'm very old school. Why would I get fired over a senior quote? Why would I mean, that's just stupid. And so if you most of my schools have gotten rid of them. I'd say 99% of our schools have gotten rid of them because literally all it is trouble for you. It's a nightmare. And superlatives, superlatives are fine. But again, Sarah, what's the problem with superlatives?
You have to stay positive. You don't want to call anybody out for anything that could be perceived as bad. We don't want to have life of the party holding a red Solo cup and they have to explain to their grandma why they won that. We don't want to call somebody most gullible and they get offended. We don't want to call somebody, Kim had one time that was worst driver, and the week after graduation, the student was killed in a car accident. So the mom had to look back at that yearbook and see worst driver about her kid. So just really think about the big picture. Think about what could go wrong, what could go right, and if it's worth doing. Also be aware of gender issues. There's so much gender fluidity right now, but your traditional superlatives are also often one male, one female. So do we need to get rid of one male, one female and just do open and let people pick what they want? Consider that. Consider your population and how that might be affected. Because,
we had a school one time that it was best couple, and could you tell that story about the best couple while I take my husband's phone call?
Of course. So it was cutest couple, and the winners were a couple that was two females. And the advisor called us and said, what should we do? And I said, well, if it were me, I would call every superlative winner for every category and say, to the parent, your child won a superlative. Are you okay if we put them in the book for the superlative? Because you don't want to single them out, but at the same time, you don't want to out somebody that has not come out to their family, right? That we've now put it in the book. The yearbook staff called the parents, asked permission. One of the couple's parents said yes. One of the couple's parents said no. So she then knew it wasn't safe to put it in the book because the family wasn't okay with it. Just be cautious of things like that. We don't want to inadvertently create an issue. So, all right.
I'm sorry, did you talk about like transgender names yet?
We haven't gotten that far yet, but that is another good thing. I was going to say first, equitable coverage. Make sure your coverage is equitable. You want to look at a spread in your book, and it needs to accurately display what your school looks like. Kinston, you don't have a lot of diversity at your school. So your pages are going to look a little bit different than another school, and that's okay, but it needs to look like your school. Right. And then, all right, transgender names, and not even transgender, but anybody who goes by a different name than they were given. Right. So if you're named Kimberly, but you go by Kim, then in the portrait section, what name do we put? We put Kimberly.
I tend to go by the formal name in the portrait section because that's the historical documentation. Small schools might be different because I can't check 3,000 kids' names to say, oh, this is the name you go by. So what's in the database is what I'm going to go with in those portrait sections. But it doesn't mean you can't use Kim in the captions because you're tagging me, so that works okay. But how about if my name's Kim and I have changed my name? Kim's my dead name, and now my name is John. Okay. How do you know that you can put that in the yearbook? How do you know that you're not outing that kid to their parent before their parent knows? How do you know this stuff?
Or that they're underage and they have made a change that the parent is going to be angry about. I feel like that you need in writing, in my opinion, from a parent or guardian that change is okay. Does that mean it was changed in PowerSchool? Does that mean it was told to guidance? Does that mean they emailed you and asked you to do it? You decide what your line in the sand is and make sure you follow that.
It happens all the time. Like I have parents call me going, please don't put their name in there as this. They'll be so embarrassed when the book comes out. And I am the person who's got the biggest heart because I have a child that I know worries about things like this very much so. So I have been really taught to be very sensitive about all these issues. And I want that child to be safe, protected, and feel like that is number one. I don't want my line in the sand to be something that hurts that child. So I'm going to take it further. I'm going to call that parent. If I get it in writing, I'm still going to call the parent and say, did you write this? Because, okay, we all know that we forge notes all the time, people. I can sign anything. So that
some schools only go by what's in PowerSchool. So there are parents who go through guidance, make changes in the name in PowerSchool. That's okay.
And then you're okay. But you gotta know these rules at your school and what you can stand behind. Okay.
And I don't even, in the portrait section, I don't even like to make Matthew Matt.
Me neither.
I like to just give them the name they give. Now, when you're writing captions, that's different.
That's right.
But that's just my personal opinion. I feel like it's easier on you, and it's an easy way to say across the board, this is how we're doing it, unless we have it in writing from a parent otherwise. So
one more thing I want to add.
I think that's all I had on my list.
I know, but you know what, there's one we didn't talk about, and that is if a student passes away or a faculty member passes away. That's why I wish every school at some point would write a staff manual. Like that might be something to think about in the spring if you've never written one, and you have these policies outlined. Like if a student passes away, are you going to offer a remembrance ad space to the parent? What is the size of that space going to be? Who is going to be responsible? As an advisor, unfortunately, I had quite a few student deaths while I was advisor at Millbrook High School. And, you know, some were suicide, some were gang related. And so it gets to be very tricky about what you're doing and if you're even going to allow that in your book.
Who do you honor, who do you not?
Right. And so my policy was written, and it was that I gave a half page to the parent to remember their child, and only the parent, and the parent was responsible for the material like that I could approve and the photos. I did not take things from kids. I didn't let the kids make those pages. That was me and the parent, and I set them up and I did them. So that is something to consider, is you need a policy on how you're going to deal with that. And if a kid passed away after the book had been printed, I would ask the parent if they wanted it for the next year. If they said no, we moved on. If they said yes, I let them have it. But again, between me and the parent.
Right. And
Okay.
some people do it the year the student passes. Other people do it the year that student would have been a senior. I've had people say, this kid died in 7th grade and now he would be a senior. Can we do one for him? And you have to have a guideline for yourself. Like,
Right.
what are you going to say yes or no to? If your yearbook editor's best friend died in 9th grade, then they're going to be really gung-ho to do something for them. But if it's a kid that nobody knew, we don't want to leave them out.
And one thing I always say is never have a policy you cannot continue, meaning that don't make up something you're going to do this year if you're not going to be able to do it next year. And I say that to advisors all the time. Is this sustainable? Is this something you can continue for the rest of your career? Because if it's not, then you need to reevaluate what your parameters are. Okay. And if you want to talk through that kind of stuff, we're here to talk through it. Believe me, I've done it as an advisor, so I know how hard it is. It is. I mean, I've been to the hospital and planned one of these for a child that was going to be passing away with a parent. And believe me, that's the hardest thing I ever had to do. So it's a very emotional job. You guys are in such important positions. Communicating with your faculty and staff at school. Let's just be honest. Some of your teachers are very cooperative and appreciate the yearbook and support you, and some are just downright mean. And they do not want kids. They don't want kids in their classroom. They don't want kids coming by. They don't want anybody pulled out of their classroom. By God, their class is changing the world. So keep this in mind. I always kept a list of the door of who you could go see and who you couldn't go see, and what time period of the day. And then I would say, no, that teacher, you're not going in calculus class because you're going to get yelled at and then you're going to feel bad. Or I would say, you've been to this teacher 12 times and all your friends are in her class. You're not going there anymore. We've exhausted that teacher. Because the really nice teachers, the kids want to go back and see them. And the ones that are hard on them, they don't want to go back. So figure out a way to track that so you have some way of knowing if they're constantly going to the same place. How are you going to notify faculty if a student needs to go to their class and pull somebody out? With COVID right now, I think you're going to have some kind of system where you email them and say, tomorrow during this third period, do I have permission for Susie to come and interview such and such? Because I think you need to think through that ahead of time now. Used to, we just knock on the door and hope nobody yelled at us, and that's not the way it is anymore. So keep that in mind. Have a system set up to do that. We are here virtually and in person. Like, people tell me, like today I found out I can't go, what school could I not? West Craven. I can't go to West Craven right now because of COVID. So I can show up, but if they don't let me in the door, that's going to be a waste of time. So if you know I can't go in the door, let me know. I agree with Claire sometimes. Claire said, oh, I like forgiveness better. Well, Claire's only 15, 20 minutes from me. I don't mind driving to see Claire and be turned away. But if I drive 2 hours to be turned away, that's frustrating as heck and a waste of time and energy.
Or if you've taken a sick day and forgot to tell me, and I got up at
Happens to us all the time. We show up, nobody's there. So, just be communicative with us. We don't care if you text me at midnight and say, oh my God, I just threw up. I'm not going to school tomorrow. Can we move our, just tell me.
And
so
things happen. We get it.
Yeah. I mean, we all are mothers or parents of dogs and cats and fish. And, something happens to Jasper, I'm probably going to be detrimental. I mean, I'll be laying out on the floor crying.
Kids are sick, she still goes to work. Her dog is sick. Nope, she's out.
Yeah, my husband's sick. I'm out of here. Please let me
far away from him.
I know. Again, all of this is pretty logical stuff, but I think sometimes we just need to say it out loud to y'all that it's okay. You can take permission to make these decisions. Finances, Sarah, you were going to do a little bit on finances.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is to know where to find everything on Yearbook Avenue, and that everything is properly recorded. So if you do sell any books at school, who are the checks going to be made out to? Are they going to be made out to the school? Or are they going to be made out to Jostens? Either is fine as long as you've cleared it with your bookkeeper, because some bookkeepers do not want any money going through the school. It has to do with the way they are audited for their different accounts and whatnot. They would rather it all come through us. Other bookkeepers like to have a little bit of cash on hand in case you do need something and they want it deposited at school. So check with your bookkeeper, find out. And if you sell any books at school, like for example, staff pricing, if you want to offer discounted books for your staff, you can do that, but it has to be purchased at school. Because if we put the offer online, we can't control who purchases at that price. So we want to do it at school. You need to make sure all of those sales are entered in Yearbook Avenue. Because if you forget to enter the sale and distribution day comes around, we're in trouble. We haven't ordered enough books and their name is not on the list. So anything you sell at school has to be entered. If you sell anything at school that has personalization, it needs to be entered right away because personalization will close. And if you try to wait until February to enter that, it's not going to happen.
You can't personalize the books, right?
Do it. So make sure that you're getting those entered in a timely manner.
And I can set you up, Sarah. Either one can set up a staff offer. So when you enter it, you just double down and find staff offer, and then you enter it. And so all your sales are recorded properly.
I think the other big thing is ads. Let's say you just don't sell as many senior ads this year as you normally do. And so you have 3 or 4 pages that you'd set aside for senior ads, and now you don't need them. Should you just put random, photos on there, Kim?
Well, I would save the money and delete those 4 pages because you were counting on those 4 pages for income, but you didn't get the income. So now you're double hurting yourself if you just leave them there and just print them without ads on them. Right. So think about that. And guys, I will run your budgets 1,000 times this year. I hate it, but it's what I do to make sure that we all get where we need to be. And at the end of the year, if you're in debt, you just call me, right? Isn't that right, Sabrina? And you say, we can't pay our bill. We messed up. We didn't sell enough books, whatever. I'm here for you. I'm not going to leave anybody ever in the red. It's my rule of thumb. I'm not living that way. If you found out today, I about had a heart attack during the last meeting because the guy just texted me from my dealership and my car needs $5,000 worth of repairs that I wasn't planning on. That's why my husband was calling me. So things happen that you don't plan on. And so, and COVID was a very different year, and I'm here to help with anything. So if you ever having to take the money, it's kind of my deal. So if you have questions about money, you just ask him, and I'll do the best I can. Keep in mind, though,
just trust her. She knows what she's doing.
Yearbook budgets are fluid. So it's not easy. Like when people call me and go, well, how much does my book cost? And I have to go, well, how many pages are you going to have in it? What's your cover going to have on it? How many ads are we going to raise? How many books do you think we're going to sell? I don't know answers to all that yet. So I have to make sure that I am kind of like estimating, like I can kind of estimate, but I don't know what's going to happen. It's like you might miss a deadline and I got to pay to move it up 3 weeks or something. So fluidity is important in budgeting. So that's why I like to keep a little wiggle room on all sides so we can get where we need to be. Did everybody get the Know Your Date sheet that I sent out last week? It's got know your dates. It had your ship week. It had when your cover was due. It had every time the yearbook price changed. It had when the ad sales cut off. It had, did everybody get it? Is everybody got that one? If that's something to print out and put in your planner, okay? That's something, you can put it on the board behind you. And if you can't find it, you let me know, because that one is that lets you know every kind of thing that's happening through the year for deadlines and dates. Not your page deadlines, but like when we order books, when personalization ends, all those little things, especially new advisors like Tipton and Phoenix and Joseph and Michaela, you haven't done before. Okay, so those are things that you can say, well, when do ads stop sale? Well, that's on that sheet. Okay, so you know all that kind of stuff. Procedures. Probably my number one procedure is camera equipment checkout. Okay, I am not responsible to buy cameras every time your kids destroy it, and I can't, or I would just be in the camera replacement business.
Kim, does Johnston buy cameras?
No, Kim buys cameras. Johnston gives me no
personally
money.
buys
So when I
cameras.
buy cameras for a school, it's Kim buying it. So and I will do this. If I walk in your classroom and a kid says, we need a new camera, I'll go, well, show me your old camera. And if the old camera has no lens cover, the lens is not covered, it's thrown in a drawer and not protected, I'm going to look at them and go, why would I buy you a new one? You obviously didn't care about the old one. So I'm going to be pretty hard on them for that, because I don't think kids, I think we have to teach them the responsibility that just because they don't own the equipment does not mean they're not responsible for the equipment. And I think you need a contract with them on that. And you can look up contracts in Digital Classroom, and you can make them sign it and their parents sign it. I had a girl at high school about 4 years ago, checked out $1,000 camera, left it at the game on the bleachers in the rain. So this is key. And I agree with you. It is so key. You have got to make sure that they have a procedure for checking out, and that everything they check out comes back and it is in the same good shape as when you send it out with them. They cannot just disrespect your equipment. They wouldn't disrespect the equipment in the library, or the computer lab. So why do it to you? So you've got to have some type of system. Also, on that sheet we gave you today, make sure you know your photo company, make sure you know your rep's name, make sure you have their cell phone number, because photo companies are the worst at communicating with yearbook advisors. They are terrible. So they will maybe call the AP or the AD, but they won't let you know that team pictures are on this day. So, and you're the one who needs them. Okay. So man, I get those people's names and numbers and keep those close by. I will call Strawbridge and Life Touch in a heartbeat. They do not like to see my phone number on the screen, because I will tell them, you need to get up with this advisor. I've had them where I've had to call them and say, you haven't even talked to the school yet this year. So please make sure you do that. On the PDF we sent, there is where you should be right now. But that does not mean you're behind if you're not done everything that's on the list. It's just a good list of, okay, have I sent my data list? Are we working on our theme, our colors, our fonts, and our styles? Have we chosen the ad templates we're going to use? And have I let Kim know, like Brittany did last week, that she wants to try ad services this year, which was really great. And then you have a cover date and when it has to be to me. Now, that does not mean we won't proof the cover after that, make changes, but that's when I have to have the idea in, so it costs you $0 for submission. You see, because I am really, Sabrina will tell you, I care so much about your budget and I don't want you to waste money. So I don't want you to miss a cover deadline by one day and be charged $300 extra. That's just stupid. I fight every charge there is at Jostens. You guys, I'm the independent person who just happens to print. I think all of you have filled out the Google form, so I can't yell at you for that, because I sent out my birthday cards for this week, and I'm hoping I didn't miss anybody because they hadn't filled out my Google form. I don't know when their birthday is. That bothers me. Okay, it's one of my things I do every week. So I think this is a really, really good start to some of the questions you might have or things you didn't consider. But we can do these once a month. We can do once a month where you use a day you can log in and we can just discuss problems you're having, especially if we're not allowed in the buildings. You can schedule virtuals with us and your kids. We can schedule virtuals to do your cover. And Brittany will tell you that is a good thing to do, isn't it, Brittany? It is, because it's much better to let the artist work with the kids and create the cover and have it like you want it, instead of proofing something by paper 32,000 times. So we'd rather do it right there on the screen if you know what, when you're ready to do that. But I have to have advance notice so I can get David. He's my favorite. I like to have David doing most of my covers because David is sensitive and he works really hard to get my schools what they want. So I did 2 this week already, and it's so neat to see the kids so excited because, oh, look at this. It was the prettiest cover. We're all ears, but they're bears. You see that? It was a beautiful burnished cover last year. And we went into that not knowing really much about what we wanted, didn't we, Brittany? We were like, we didn't know, but working with David, we can kind of get that out, and it's so much fun. Okay. So all of you need to do a virtual cover. I'm just saying, you just need to. And then we talked about, because I know Phoenix had emailed me earlier about some Canva clip art and stuff like that. I will go back and say a lot of that is low resolution, so be very careful.
If you need some specific clip art, if you email me, I'll try to help you if I can.
What happens on Canva is that most of that is for web production, like, making things. You got to be able to download it the right way for it to have enough high res to print. Everything printed has to be 300 DPI or better for it to be good resolution.
At size. So if it's going to be a 5-inch tall picture, you need 300 DPI at 5 inches tall.
Right. And so I think that's something kids forget, and they want to blow stuff up. And I always tell them, well, did you steal that off the internet and put it in your term paper? And then when you printed it, it was just little boxes of pixels. Well, that's what happens in Yearbook. So those dots of pixels, that's dots per inch. And so if your kids have struggled with that, we can talk about that and camera settings and things like that. Any questions? Let's think about anything that is just bothering you, something you need. If you need me to come down there and manhandle somebody in the classroom, are they all behaving? Michaela's not sure. I saw your face, Michaela. Oh, because we will come and we will do what needs to be done.
Sometimes you just need somebody to come in and be the bad guy when they won't listen to you about something being ugly. Or Kim had to come tell some of my students one time, I was insistent that they were not going to use clip art on their pages. And they were insistent that they were going to put big, huge baseball clip art on the baseball page instead of pictures of the kids. And so I fought them about it. I told them no, they kept doing it. So I called Kim in. Kim comes in, she's like, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life about their page.
I was prepared because I knew she wanted me to come in strong.
I told her that.
Day.
And like, why do you have a giant baseball on that page when you could have a picture of a kid? And it was the funniest thing because those kids were like, oh, I can't believe she said that. And I'm giggling in the back because I told her to say it, but
yeah, I've had to be the bad. I don't mind being the bad guy when I need to be, but I also like to love on them. So when something really good happens, I don't mind dropping off some ice cream one day and some candy or some donuts. And we want to play too with your kids, and we want them to recognize us. I love in the grocery store when they see me and they go, "That's the yearbook lady."
Who's that yearbook lady?
That's the yearbook lady. And it's just fun that way. We want to be part of their lives as well, so that they learn that there are jobs out there in journalism. I think sometimes kids they think you just got to be a newspaper reporter or something, or on the news, multimedia, but that there are a lot of jobs still in journalism and print media and print yearbooks and stuff like that. So it's a good thing to be able to give them those life skills.